Barbenheimer, the event that the world didn't see coming. This right here, this event of two movies coming together in the most bizarre way possible to draw tons of people to the movie theaters and watch two very different movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer. This right here is probably one of the best examples I can point to in current times and say, that right there, that is luck. That is what authors talk about when they say sometimes one of the elements that leads to you being successful or leads to your stories not taking off is quite simply luck. So here in this video, I want to talk about Barbenheimer. I want to talk about what this cultural event actually really means, what on earth is going on here, and then review and analyze both Barbie and Oppenheimer, which I did a double feature of. Oh boy, I've got thoughts and I'm ready to share them with you. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. So, Barbenheimer. What on earth is going on here besides just the fantastic art that fans or prospective fans of these different creators and their movies and so forth have put together? What on earth is going on here with Barbenheimer? Well, there are a couple of things that we need to take note of. Despite the fact that there have been some really great movies that have come out into theaters this year, I mean, I personally enjoyed Across the Spider-Verse. I really enjoyed the Super Mario Brothers movie. I enjoyed the really weird, freaky horror movie Megan at the beginning of the year. Despite there being some really fun movies to go and see, there's been a lot of disappointments. And people want to be able to go to the movies and just have a fun time watching a great movie and enjoy that time with friends and with family. People want this to happen. So when people said that the movie theater was going to go under, especially during COVID or after COVID, that theaters were now irrelevant, that was a bunch of BS, because people love having shared experiences. People love going out, and the movies are a fun, good place to go. So people have wanted to go to the movies for a long time now, but where was the story that was going to hook them and bring them on in? Well, with the current dearth of great stories to draw people to the movies, people have been wanting something. And the advertising for both Barbie and Oppenheimer have been absolutely phenomenal. People have been talking about these movies now for a year at least and have been anxiously waiting for them to come out. So the advertising has been really good. The demand for good movies has been really high. So already we see these different elements coming together to form what we call luck, things that you really don't have much control over. Maybe sure you can control advertising, but you can't control how people are going to feel, and you can't control the fact that there will be this great wasteland of lost opportunity, especially if you're Disney. But then also, opposites attract, and sometimes in the weirdest ways. Barbie looks like this happy-go-lucky fantastic movie, and Oppenheimer looks like a dark, gritty historical drama. And yet, because they're releasing at the exact same time, and they appeal to older and younger audiences, to men and to women respectively, it's like, wow, what if we had a double feature? What if we had a date where the men and the women, the children, and all these different generations just came together and enjoyed the movies together? Wow, it was not originally planned for these two movies to go head to head. It was something that the studios just had to agree to while negotiating stuff with Tom Cruise. And again, these are just things that just fell into place randomly with business. It was not planned out. All these different elements have come together to form the luck that has drawing people to Barbenheimer, to watch Barbie and Oppenheimer together. And word of mouth is, and I don't have anything really conclusive to prove this, but I've heard that AMC alone had recorded 50,000 tickets sold for both Barbie and Oppenheimer. And that's not 25,000 that then leads to 50,000. No, 50,000 people had bought tickets for both Barbie and Oppenheimer to go and see it opening weekend or on the same day. The joys of the double feature. So all of these different things have come together to form luck. And you know what? After seeing both of these movies, I can tell you this. There are way better films out there. The Super Mario Brothers movie, still actually beats both of them in terms of just sheer entertainment quality. And there's other movies as well that have done a whole lot better. If you want a movie that's really going to leave you rattled and thinking, you can go watch The Sound of Freedom. You can go watch an indie film. Heck, you can actually spend some time on Netflix. There's some good stuff coming on out. So Luck has drawn people's eyeballs and attention away from other stories and movies that are arguably better and have brought them to Barbenheimer. And why is that? Because of a bunch of variables that all slammed together at the exact time that they needed to come together in order to get people just thrilled and hungry for these two movies. So like I said, this is luck. Luck is something that you don't have any control over. Sure, there are things that you can do. You should, as a creator, if you're looking to sell your story, if you're looking to make a name for yourself, you have to be willing to go out of your way and do everything that you can to get your name out there, to get your story out there, to advertise it well, and to make the best story that you can to wow and draw in audiences. However, you can do your absolute best and still not reach your ultimate goal. And that's just because sometimes it's the timing, sometimes it's the passion, sometimes something else beats you by just 24 hours, or perhaps it just didn't reach enough people at the right time. Maybe the thrill wasn't there. Maybe people misunderstood you. All of these different elements combine to create luck. Luck is something that you can't control, and luck has ground many creatives into the dust, and yet you shouldn't let this destroy you if you're trying to get your own story out there. If luck doesn't reward you the first, the second, or the third time around, keep at it. Keep going again and again and again. Why? Because you deserve it. You deserve to have your day. You deserve to have your win. And your stories deserve to be the best that they can be and to reach the widest audience possible. And believe it or not, the world and its many people need your stories. You need your stories need you, and the world needs your stories. Even though Barbenheimer might not be the thing that I hoped it would be, that doesn't mean that it wasn't something that I needed. And I'm glad that I had my experience with both Barbie and Oppenheimer this weekend. So keep on going. Doesn't matter if your luck is bad, keep pushing until eventually your luck will swing around, elements will come together in your favor at the right time, and you have your shot. But now then, let's actually talk about first Barbie and then Oppenheimer. I'm a guy in Camille's harem, and as such, I know that Barbie isn't a movie that was necessarily made for me. And so I will not actually give my personal impression of the story. Instead, I will share the feedback that I got from my sister, with whom I went and saw the movie with. So, with whom I went to go and see this movie. Now, let me just say at the beginning, this movie is split into 3 parts. You have the opening, which is Barbie Land, which is where it's like, wow, it's basically Barbie come to life, and it is fantastic. The set is amazing, the music is amazing, the acting is phenomenal. Well, things start happening to Barbie, and Barbie has to go into the real world and find the woman or the girl who's been playing with her and whose pretend has now begun to affect Barbie. And so the second part of the movie is Barbie and Ken going into the real world and finding out what has been happening to Barbie. And that part is great. That's some real surrealist fun. Granted, when we actually get to meet the daughter of the woman who's been playing with Barbie, when we get to meet Sasha, oh, well, whatever. That's another matter entirely. The third act is where things unravel really, really quick. The fight between the Kens is hilarious and so well done, and there's a lot of comedy throughout this entire movie. However, as my sister told me when we left the movie, and we had a long conversation. We were actually talking out in front of the theater for so long that we got to see the next crowd of people who had gone into the movie after us come on out. Oh boy, they went in super high-spirited with so much energy, and when they came out, they were depressed and quiet. But what my sister had to say was this: this movie was degrading. My sister, who is a fan of Barbie, who loves empowering movies and good empowering female messages, left saying that this movie had not just only degraded men, but it degraded women as well. And she said that she was shaking with fury at a couple of moments. And there's parts of the movie where she said, I knew it was speaking directly to me. And she said, kudos to the writers that they were able to create that particular moment. But I then realized that it was shallow. It was superfluous. I was a box to be checked in order for these writers to be as woke as possible. And she said, I hated that. And then she also told me how much she hated how the daughter disrespected the mother and got away with it. And that the mother began to take out all kinds of frustrations on men that she said, I'm sorry, but as a married woman with a husband, those are problems that men also have as well. What's the solution? You told me what the problem was, Barbie movie, but you didn't give me a solution. And she also hated it when you get to see the father of Sasha, and he is completely degraded into basically nothing. And she said, wow, as someone who is married, and as someone who has preteens and teenagers, and as someone who loves Barbie, and as someone who wants female empowerment and equality, she said all of those things were attacked and degraded in this movie. And that while she absolutely loved the first 2/3 of the movie, and she was laughing throughout, and she had so many great things to say about it as the movie was playing, when we got to that final act, the third act, everything just came tumbling down for her, and she could no longer enjoy the movie because of how it retroactively just destroyed so much, and how it was such an insult to the viewer. It was an insult to the characters. It was an insult to men. It was an insult to women. And so those are all the things that she said, and there's a whole lot more that she said as well that I won't put here into this review because we'll then be here for an hour. Because again, we had a conversation for 2 hours plus in front of the theater because she had so much to say. She was like, Lars, can we sit down? I need to talk. It's like, oh boy. Oh boy. And it was a great conversation, and I think that's something that the Barbie movie can at least be good for, is it can prompt some very good, honest conversations between men and women. And also, I will say that the first 2/3 are a ton of fun. Yes, there's a lot of feminist propaganda, especially fourth wave feminist propaganda throughout the first 2/3, but it was funny. It was enjoyable. I found myself really enjoying myself until the final act and everything came tumbling down. So, as far as the Barbie movie, was it a good story? If you can't stick the landing and if you flop that badly, it's very, very hard to recommend it. I'm never going to watch this movie again if I can help it. And I know my sister's never going to watch it again. She was going to take her daughters to go see it. She's not going to do that now because the movie ended up disappointing her so much, making her so angry because of how much it degraded not just the characters and degraded men, but how it degraded women and degraded her, the viewer. And I'm saying the word degraded over and over and over again because she actually told me before we left, she said, Lars, I know you're going to make a review. Please use that word because that is exactly how I feel right now. That was rough. That was powerful. So, I then made my way on over to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is an ambitious historical drama. It is a very complex story. I see a lot of people already complaining about how long it runs. I will say this, if you go in and watch the movie like I did without any snacks or drink, you are going to be able to sit through the whole thing, and you can't miss anything because it is a very intricate web to build just how nuanced all of these characters surrounding Oppenheimer are. That there are really no heroes in the creation of the atomic bomb, but rather humans who are grappling with so many different problems. Problems of power, of love, of being unfaithful to your spouse, of worrying about the morality of killing tens of thousands of people in an instant, what about patriotism? What about ideology? There's a conflict of ideologies. Which one is correct? And you have also a lot of people who were once communists falling out of love with the Communist Party as they began to realize that it was not what they thought it was. But now this has branded them as traitors in the eyes of the American government, and they have to deal with the fallout of choices that they made when they were younger. And yes, stupid choices that they made, but also choices that they thought they made because they were well-educated individuals, but things just didn't turn out the way that they had hoped or dreamed or believed. And so you have very real people living a very real experience in the middle of one of the most chaotic and transformative moments in world history, which is the Second World War. And following immediately after that, the Cold War and the horrors of McCarthyism and everything like that. This movie hits all of it. And it takes you through such a dark and personal journey of Oppenheimer to realize that the world is always from now on the brink of destruction because of the knowledge that has been unleashed and the things that we have built with that knowledge. And while amazing and good things have been done, horrible things have been done as well, and sometimes for personal gain. For instance, in this movie, it's brought out that Kyoto is not bombed in Japan. Why? Well, because it has some cultural significance, and one of the generals honeymooned there into Kyoto, and so he doesn't want it bombed. But he's willing to destroy a hub of not commerce, but just a hub of regular Japanese citizens together. Hiroshima and Nagasaki didn't even really have to be bombed. Instead, these cities were destroyed to make a political statement to the Soviet Union saying, don't mess with us. And the people who bought into that were immediately like, what if we build a bigger bomb? I did not expect the H-bomb, the hydrogen bomb, to be such a big deal throughout this movie, and yet it was. And it was horrifying to watch how personal greed, personal interests, and just how relentless hubris on the part of some of the engineers leads to an even worse situation for the entire world as even greater atomic bombs are built. And so this movie's dealing with so many different things about human nature and how what we do can be incredibly dangerous. Oppenheimer is the pill to take you off of whatever Barbie high or Barbie low you are on. It is going to leave you really thinking and feeling some things. It's its own crazy experience. Now then, would I necessarily recommend this movie to people? I would say Oppenheimer is definitely open for mature audiences, and I do say mature because there are some really graphic parts within the movie that I would not feel comfortable showing, especially to kids, but not even to most teenagers, if I'm going to be very honest. And it's also not the best story in that it's so highly convoluted, you really have to be paying attention in order to catch everything. Otherwise, you're going to be lost at the end. There is a conclusion to the story, and it's one that you really have to be paying attention to everything that has happened beforehand in order to grasp the magnitude of what has just happened in the life of Oppenheimer, but also in the history of the world. And so, stepping back from Barbenheimer, I cannot recommend Barbie in good conscience, and I can only slightly recommend Oppenheimer. And yet these two stories, when you bring them together, when you combine them together, especially when you see them in one day, you're taken on this really crazy roller coaster ride. And it is the roller coaster ride that people have wanted. However, how they feel when they step off that ride is an entirely different matter. So the excitement leading up to Barbenheimer that was all over the internet, that was fun. And the ride was at least worth going on once. But it leaves me thinking about how there are some stories to tell, and every story deserves to be told. But there are some stories to tell that need definitely more refining. And you have to ask yourself, who am I writing for? Who is my audience? How am I going to communicate my ideas and these stories to my audience? I feel like Barbie had everything necessary to be a fantastic, family-friendly movie that would be empowering to women, but it really needed to edit its third act heavily. Oppenheimer could be an amazing historical drama, but there's lots of things that were done for artistic sake rather than for the sake of the audience. And art for art's fun is good. But again, understand who your audience is. What is the story that you're trying to tell? This opens up, I think, a way more interesting, way more nuanced conversation that audiences and creators need to have between each other and within their separate groups in order to better understand how we can better refine our stories, because there's two great stories here, and yet they didn't really land, at least for me. I can definitely tell for a lot of the audience that watched Barbie with me that it didn't land for them. For Oppenheimer, we're going to see how people react in the long run. Right now, Barbie is kind of claiming the spotlight with how much was happening there in that movie. Let's see how people react to Oppenheimer in the long run. Now, obviously, these kinds of topics are something that we don't normally get into here on Camille's Harem. This is me really trying to kind of catch the lightning of the moment and say something about it, because each lightning bolt is beautiful and complex in its own way, but it's so fleeting, and the next lightning bolt is just a few minutes away. So this is one of those things where it's like, for the people here on YouTube who chase these moments, I mean, good on you. I couldn't do it. I enjoy far more to just enjoy my time with various stories. But I feel like this weekend of Barbenheimer, there's a whole lot to talk about. And this right here is me giving my thoughts and impressions, what I have learned from this whole experience, and hoping that you, dear viewer, will engage in this conversation with me and with the rest of Camille's Harem, and maybe we can find something that we can all really learn from this experience. So please do comment down below. If you've seen Barbie, you've seen Oppenheimer, please tell me your honest thoughts. I want to hear them. And tell me what we can possibly learn from this. How can we improve? How can we make our stories better? Because I feel like we were on the cusp of greatness, but we weren't quite there yet. What can we do to make it even better? So that will do it here for this video. If you're looking, though, for some really good solid writing advice, some really great insights or analyses, please check out our other videos here on our channel, or head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem. And please also join our growing community of novice authors. We would love to have you. And if you want to support the work that we're doing, please check out the books that we've published. Links for them are in the description below. But otherwise, thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, keep your fingers crossed for some good luck. Keep working hard on your stories because they deserve it. And tschüss.